this is episode 241. There won't be a part two to this podcast today. We had a few technical issues. Chris's computer were playing up, so we didn't get a chance to re-record part two, and he's gone away for a week, so we'll do it when we get back. We'll get on with the podcast. Cheers. Bye. All right, here we go. We're back with another weekly Sheep Farm podcast hosted on your favourite bullshit platform through our big shill mics. I'm here with our Chris.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This is episode 241. Format is simple. We release a minimum of 4 shows a month. Members get full podcast plus download. Non-members get part 1 plus download. All shows are released on Saturdays and always on our private bullshit platform at sheepfarm.co.uk. And we also put them out, part 1 out anyway, on Podomatic that distribute them out to Spotify, Amazon, Audible and Tapple and a few more. Subscribe to the website for all email notifications for new shows and tickets to any live shows we might be doing at some point. And join us on Instagram as well, where you can contact us there if you want to. Email address is info@sheepfarm.co.uk. Simple. That's about it for that. Chris's Gaping Gobs on Epsy. How's it going this month, Chris, with your Gaping Gobblies?
Yeah, steady away.
Shed's warm today?
It's fucking boiling. So had a few sheep farmers buy a few sculptures. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit quiet this time of year, but it's all right.
Yeah, well, you get your busy time, I suppose, going up to Christmas, don't you?
Yeah.
Thanks for buying supplements. There's a few new products coming out actually soon. Remember, use a 25% discount code. There's also the 35% discount code off the Be Regular for anybody suffering with constipation or that holiday block up when you go abroad. I don't know if you suffer with that, Chris, if you go abroad.
No.
Being bunged up, I do. Does me. Like a bloody space opera. So yeah, they're a lifesaver for me. I know Crab Claws uses them as well, as he says. Otherwise, I'd be crapping bowling balls.
Right, this is all really fantastic, lovely imagery you created.
Yeah, well, that's what you get to when you get to our age, sadly, talking about crap.
Literally.
Yeah. New products: Evening Primrose for hormone balance and PMT. Our Jacob said he's shoveling a full tub a day down his missus. Just remember, use the promo code, and the one that people have been asking for, Sorpalmetto, or Sorpalmetto, as my mate from Northeast calls it, for prostate. It'd be interesting to see what feedback people get after a few weeks. I need to send you some down as well, don't I? Mm. Yeah. One thing other people have always got, do you suffer with acid reflux or out, Chris? Do you get any acid reflux?
Not really, only if I don't drink any red wine.
What, if you don't drink red wine, you get acid reflux?
Yeah, if I don't drink it for a few days, I can get a bit of acid reflux.
Well, I can't drink red wine because it gives me acid reflux.
But is that
I won't drink it anyway. But
my body's used to having the acidic red wine in it, maybe?
No, I think my dad, after what my digestive system's ruined, I think.
It's not something I get I don't get heartburn, really.
Yeah.
It's fucking painful when you get it in it.
It's not nice. I used to suffer with it badly
it's not something I've ever really had badly.
One product I go to is L-glutamine powder. That is the product. If you get acid reflux, a couple of scoops of L-glutamine powder. For me anyway, I'm not saying it works for everybody, but L-glutamine powder. That, if you suffer with try that. We sell it, but try it from someone else if you want to. You don't have to buy it from me, but it's on there anyway. But everything I put on there, right, is not on there I've just put this on there to sell it. Everything I either take now or I've taken over the last 10 years. So every product that I'm putting on is what I've taken. You'll see, you'll think, how many products has he taken? How many stuff has he taken? I take most of them things every day.
Well, I was surprised to see how many different ones you had when we were up at the live show in July. I didn't realise you'd...
Yeah.
The only thing I suffer with, which I was going about, is joint ache.
Yeah. Yeah, I do as well.
Fucking joint ache, honestly. If it moves around my body, if my back gets better, I get such a sore shoulder. Roving
joint pain. We're getting, over the next 2 or 3 months, we're in the process of getting all the nurses trained up for ozone injections. So, I mean, I want these for myself, let alone clients. I'm going to be the guinea pig. So, I'll be like a sieve. Anyway, so we've got Chris's mic sorted out as well.
Yeah. Well,
found
it's a
out
new
where
computer.
the problem was.
It's a new computer. I'm not very good on computers as it is.
No.
And the newer they get, the more complicated they get.
Well, I don't think it was complication, that, Chris. It was just that you didn't know where it was.
Yeah.
The thing is, we don't have we're not in the same studio, so I can't look at it for you as well. You know, we're not. I think people might think we're like Morecambe and Wise. We're in the same sort of like TV studio, but we're not. Our
TV studio.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I meant Morecambe and Wise. I'm downstairs under my house, and Chris is in his living room
In the corner.
recording on
Corner.
recording on Zoom or Restream. So yeah, that's his recording studio. I did a new Matrix. I don't know if I mentioned that last week. I think I put it out last week. So there's a new Matrix out. I put these together. I know people keep saying, "Oh, when are you doing another one?" If you knew how these things take a while to put together, you know. I know they're only half an hour, but they take longer than half an hour to put together. Sadly, and putting them together sometimes, like this one, I put a little whatever bit together where all the weather was shot. I don't know if you saw it, Chris, but it showed the weather from
I watched this
like
one.
the
I forgot. I saw it. Yeah.
1990s to 2025.
Oh,
It
yeah.
showed the different colour of the like Michael Fish and all these other people that did the weather. So it went from lovely green in 30 degrees to bright red, looking like it's going to set on fire with the same temperature.
That one, it just used to be green with a little wisp of wind,
Yes.
or a raindrop, or a sun, or a cloud.
Chris, it actually says on there, it says 32 degrees or something like that. Gentle sea breeze. It says that like
it just goes to prove everything is how it's delivered to you, how it's delivered. You know, like for instance,
2020
and the measles. You know, now it
don't
can
mention
kill
that.
you.
This is going on YouTube.
All right, shit.
Yeah,
beat me out. Like the M thing. You know, it used to be nothing to us when we were kids, and now it's a deadly
now it's a thing.
Yeah. It'll kill you if you don't do.
We'll talk about that in part 2.
You don't do as you told, you fucking idiot.
Yeah. So in part 2, part 1, sorry. Part 1. Part 2, we're going to discuss the new is it Alien series?
We discussed it briefly with Wayne, didn't we?
Wayne McRoy, who's our guest this week. We're going to discuss the heat temperatures from. I did a lot of work on heat temperatures from 1900 through to 2025 in August.
Yeah,
guess what,
Chris? What I saw. Yeah,
not right. Much has changed. Yeah.
Did you say someone message? I forgot to have a look on YouTube saying it was refreshing that we were talking slightly sexist talk. In the
it sounded like we were having a discussion in the 70s and 80s, and it were a lady as well. It weren't a bloke.
There's no offence to anyone, is there? That's the point.
No.
It's not like,
Well, apparently there is nowadays.
My missus phoned me the other day.
This is intro. You know this, don't you?
Yeah. No, it's a 2-minute story. I just had to tell you before I forget. She phoned me the other day, and I said, "Oh, I'll make your favourite. A favourite's puttanesca. You know, spaghetti with anchovies, olives, capers. It's really nice, actually. I like it. And we have it about once a week or every 2 weeks." And I said, "Oh, I'll do puttanesca for you tonight." And we're going away. And she said, "Yeah, I don't want to put any weight on, because we're going away." And I said, "I'll just make you a small portion." And she said, "That's not what you should fucking say in that situation. The answer should be, you don't need to lift any weight, darling." And she said, "I said it with like a caring voice. Oh, don't worry, I'll just do you a small portion."
Don't worry, Jabberwocky.
You know, you realise I don't know.
Well, you weren't thinking of anything else, were you? You were sort of helping her. I thought you were helping her.
Fucking whip it.
I know.
She said, but my immediate answer was, "Don't worry, I'll just make you a little portion."
So, and my answer would have been, so one meal's going to make a difference? That wouldn't have been a good answer either, but...
No, there wouldn't have been a good answer. There is no good answer other than, "You look fine as you are, darling."
Yeah.
That's the only answer you can give.
You're lying now. No, but that's what you're getting.
You're in trouble.
Yeah. Either way, you're on a loser. So, you might as well just stand and stare. Then you're ignorant. Anyway, our guest this week is Wayne McRoy. And partway through this podcast, we all actually break down and more or less in tears laughing, don't we?
Yeah, it was very funny.
Yeah, very funny.
He was good quality, Wayne. Very smart guy.
Yeah,
really good.
Yeah, well, I do like Wayne. I mean, I've liked listening to him for a long time, Wayne. So you actually,
Yeah.
first Crow that I ever listened to were Wayne McRoy back in probably 2016, 2017, something like that. A long time ago. Right. Okay, then. So I hope you enjoy part one. We're going to keep this short. 10 minutes. We've done it. A prize there for keeping it short. Right. Enjoy part one. If you join us in part two, we'll see you there. Bye.
Oh, and another thing. No, I'm joking. Bye.
All right, welcome back to this Sheep Farm podcast. This is episode 241. And joining me and Chris today, we've got a returning guest. In fact, we've been on a couple of podcasts together. It's about a year since he was on Sheep Farm. We'll welcome back Wayne McRoy. How are you doing, Wayne?
Hey, guys.
Hi, Wayne.
Doing well. I'm glad you had me back on. It's been a while since we talked. It seems like time flies.
It seems
like just yesterday.
Was that a year ago, Dom?
Yeah, about a year ago. Well, last summer.
Hey.
Crazy.
Mental. Yeah. And also, Wayne, talking about time flying, is it age, do you think, or since 2020, do you feel that things have seem to be moving a lot faster?
It feels like that to me. I'm sure you guys are speaking from experience there too, but I don't know if there's something to that on a metaphysical level or not, that time seems to be going quicker. Or my mom used to tell me when I was younger, she said, the older you get, the faster time seems to go. Well, she was certainly correct about that. But I don't, it seems to me like something exponential has happened where days and weeks just kind of blend together and all of a sudden it's a year later, much like what we alluded to here about the last broadcast we did together. It's been some time and it doesn't feel like it. Like it feels like maybe weeks, you know?
I've heard other people say that it's not just that it feels like it's faster. It's hard to piece together when things happened because it's like you said, it's all merged into one, it seems. And, it's hard to go, oh, when were it we did that? Like, if you'd have told me that was a year ago, I wouldn't have believed it. I thought about 6 months ago.
That was last year. Yeah. But it probably is part of we've seen the sun being dimmed. It's a different colour now. I don't know if it is over where you are, Wayne. Where we are, it seems to be white now.
Yeah, we've noticed that for the past couple of years now. And I think there's a lot of different divergent things going on along with that. I think, of course, the chemtrailing and the geoengineering programs have a little to do with that, but there's other things on the cosmological level that are happening right now that I think are contributing to that as well. But certainly, we are living in interesting times, and it seems like time is flying by. And I recall many, many years ago, decades ago, Art Bell used to mention this on the air when he was on doing either Coast to Coast AM or Midnight in the Desert or whatever, those old shows he used to do, where he had mentioned something called the quickening. And I think maybe that's kind of one of the aspects of it that we're seeing happening with this speeding up of time. And they are saying that the Earth is spinning faster or slower or some such thing in certain scientific journals. I've seen a couple different takes on that in recent weeks where they say that this is the fastest day or the shortest day ever or the longest day or something like that in these different periodicals that they put out in the scientific community. But we are experiencing high strangeness at this point, and I think this is part and parcel of some of the things going on at this point in time that we're in. We're living in some very interesting times, and we are seeing the confluence of events happening that are cyclical in nature. And in addition to those things that occur naturally on a periodic basis, we have certain interest groups in this world that are trying to manipulate that to the utmost to bring about agendas that they want to see come to fruition. So certainly all these things pieced together in this giant puzzle we're looking at. And I've spent the better part of my adult life trying to reverse engineer all of these different programs that are going on. So I analyze things to the utmost with all of this stuff. So
I've never noticed that, Wayne. Yeah. I mean, we were speaking before we came on. I mean, how did we, just for us three alone, three middle-aged blokes, how did we get here? I mean, we spend literally hours. I mean, if you're going to write an Hollywood movie, we would be that archetypical person the conspiracy theorist who spending hours researching and what have you. I'm not saying that how we're portrayed would be true to form, but certainly the amount of time we spend researching.
Oh, certainly. I could put the giant charts on the wall if you want. Book up
with a red string.
Yeah, with red string.
My wife told me when she said, if I come home and there's red string on the walls with pins in it, I'm leaving. I think it's probably worse than that now, actually. Isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is probably worse. We've done hundreds of shows on it, and God knows what else. Hours of research. We've hidden the red string and drawing pins.
Yeah, I think it goes way deeper than that by this point. I've done so many thousands upon thousands of hours of research and or broadcasting now that it's just astounding. If that was the model to be used, I would have my giant wall back here covered with the red string. But it's amazing how all these rabbit trails lead you to the same inevitable conclusions, and that's wherein I think we find a lot of commonality in all of this stuff, because it doesn't matter what conspiratorial trail you go looking down, you always invariably come to two places. First, you always find the occult. And second, you always find transhumanism as the fulfillment of the occult. Yeah. And this is what I've tried to express to people for as long as I've been doing this. It doesn't matter what topic you start out with, that's where you invariably wind up, because they are interconnected, and it is the big grandfather of all conspiracies going on in the world today. It's called the transhumanist movement, and it has its roots in the ancient mystery schools of antiquity. So we have the different correlations that put all of that into place, and it doesn't matter where you start on the trail, you always find that. I started out looking primarily, when I began to first go public with this, in the ufology circle, looking at this stuff. So it's an interesting juxtaposition as to how I wound up accidentally becoming an expert in occult philosophy. That's what happened, essentially.
Yeah.
Was that you? What's the book? What's the book I've got of yours? Wayne, is that the AI book, the transhumanism one? Which one is it?
Which one? The autism epidemic.
Yes, yeah, autism and transhumanism, I think it is.
Yeah, I have 2 books on autism and transhumanism. I had to write 2 books. There's so much to it. I had to write 2 books, and probably there's more coming. So,
I was just saying to you that I was catching up with a few of your shows, and on your Alchemical Tech Revolution podcast, and I was listening to the old one you did with Freeman Fly. I think it was from 2020. And bloody hell, that sounds pretty. It's pretty on the nose. I mean, when you think where AI is now and what you two were fleeting around talking about at that point, I mean, the way it's sped up in the last couple of years now. It was
well. Now it's a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It was a rumor. That's what I'm trying to say. It was a rumor that it was coming then, but then, bloody hell! I mean, look how fast it's got. Yeah, you were pretty much on the nose, you two. I was going to ask, how is Freeman Fly? 'Cause he hadn't produced any podcasts for a while, has he, Wayne?
Last I heard, Freeman's doing well. He's just taken some time off from podcasting and stuff like that. But certainly, if anybody here is a listener, go ahead and go to freemantv.com and listen to some of his many thousands of hours of stuff that he posted there, because he often uses the phrase "never an old episode," and certainly he's correct with that. Yeah. So of the things he talked about 20 years ago, it's pertinent right now, and he's not as much of a nut as people portrayed him as back then.
Yeah. It's strange how these things come round, isn't it? A lot of my friends are coming up to me and going, "Hey, you were right about this and right about that 20 years ago, or whatever it is, 15 years ago." They're realising it now when they've had, 10 COVID jabs.
I've listened to Freeman Fly. I can't even remember how long, to be honest with you, for so long. Probably one of my early ones that I used to listen to, because he used to do some, what you could consider batshit crazy, but fantastic. The what is it one springs to mind? The one he did about the Obamas and the Egyptian. I mean, that was phenomenal. That was it's brilliant. That one is. Anyway, go over to Freeman Fly. It's fantastic. Does some fantastic stuff.
Yeah, he knows his stuff. He has really put some pieces together a long time before anybody else, and was presenting a lot of these things. And still, some of the things he has put out in the past are kind of controversial, and some people will take umbrage with them. But hey, he's been pretty correct on a lot of things.
But you do need to go to them places, because if you don't go to them places, you don't get the other stuff, do you?
Yeah.
You've got to go to what might be wacky now, but in 10 years is normal type of place, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's all part of a social engineering trope called the Overton window. So certainly those things that we see as being outlandish now, well, what's being done by those controllers in this world that are putting these kind of ideologies and stuff forward, they're trying to normalize these things in incremental steps. So things that 10 years ago that we thought were absolutely just beyond the pale crazy, well, they're normal now, aren't they? Like, look at the state of the world. Look at what's going on. Look at, like we were discussing off air, we were talking about AI years ago, and a lot of it was speculation and rumor, and everybody was like, "Oh, that's all fear porn and stuff." And now we have the technology sitting right in front of us all the time. It's being pushed on us heavily. Like, look at just the standards that we're seeing today, like this Grok AI that Elon Musk is putting out now. The things that it's capable of doing are really kind of concerning. You don't know what you're looking at anymore. AI has gotten to the point where it could convincingly make video and audio of people saying and doing things that they never really did, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. This is concerning, and this is all playing with our perception of reality, and this is something that I find very disconcerting, is that AI can really influence our perceptions of the world in various ways we don't even perceive right now, or we can't even conceive of. And I suspect it's been doing it for a lot longer than what's publicly been disclosed. So that's the other side of this that I find.
Well, even from a search engine, if you search for someone, if you're doing research, it'll come up with options now, AI options, which it weren't doing a year ago or 18 months ago. But just around the same time as, say, any of the search engines have narrowed down the searches, because you now see 10 pages instead of 500-600. It seemed 5-10 years ago it were endless, the numbers at the bottom of the page, weren't it?
Yeah, that's all been kind of pared down too. This is a lot of the information disappearing into the memory hole. Remember the concept of the memory hole from Orwell's 1984? That's what they're doing, and that's why the digitization process of everything is such a concerning thing, and that's why I always urge my listeners, you have to have an analog type of recording of information. That's why I say physical books are still the best way to go with this, because it's a written record that is not mutable, that can't be memory holed. You have it. You have a physical analog copy of this thing, of this information, rather than having it disappear. And we see that in a lot of researchers that I've known for years that have been doing this kind of stuff. And even I could speak from my own experience with it. You can't find things on the internet you used to be able to find. Like, I've been looking and searching for months now for some old John Lear videos that I had seen on YouTube years ago and knew some things about, and it's gone. It's just gone. You can't find these videos anywhere of him talking about things like aliens on the moon and stuff like this, and how it all ties into this soul recycling system and things like that. I've been looking for that type of footage where John Lear talks about this for many years. And I know I've seen it. I saw it many times in the past and never bothered to download a video or anything of it. And now all that stuff is gone. I just assumed it would always be present somewhere. And we can't make that assumption anymore. That's why I personally, whenever I find digitized books or something that I think are valuable in PDF format, I download that. And I have a massive digital library just based upon that, because you don't know where it's going to go, if it's going to disappear. Same thing, even research papers and stuff like that, and white papers that I've seen. I was looking for one in particular I used to have. It was on a memory card in an old cell phone that I had, and I lost that file somehow. And I tried to re-find it online, and I can't find it. But what this is it talks about the notion of cloning rights, with the cloning of human beings and the making of chimeras and things like that, and how this is going to be an ethical problem in years to come, where it talks about if you actually take the DNA from like a nematode or something like that, mix it with a human, and you wind up with a human body that has essentially the intellect
parasitic mind
nematode, how that could be used to make sex slaves and stuff like that. I'm not kidding. This was a white paper I found years ago. I can't find it anymore. That talked about the ethical implications of something like that. And like all of these things have since disappeared from the internet. You can't find it anymore.
The search engine, internet, Google, etc. It is the perfect memory hole, isn't it? Because you don't even have to drop anything physical down them at all. They can just vanish it.
Exactly.
It can vanish anything.
This is, if you want to go back to the ideas that George Orwell told us about, whose name was Eric Blair in reality, and he was in with the inner circle in the upper echelon of the powers that be in this world while he was alive. He was actually worked for the intelligence agencies and such too. He told us in no uncertain terms how many of these things would come about through works of fiction. He told us not only in 1984 about the concept of the memory hole, but he told us in a much simpler book geared at younger people called Animal Farm how this would work. It's called The Barn Wall. They would change the rules on the barn wall, and nobody remembered that the rules used to be different except for the one animal. I forget which animal it was that remembered. It might have been a donkey or something like that, who remembered that the rules were different and kept trying to point it out to them. But they're like, no, it's always been that way. And then you see what's become of that. Well, that's what the internet is. It's the barn wall. They could change the rules on the wall anytime they want and make it look as if it's always been that way, and nobody would know any different. And we're seeing that especially today, the way they've engineered the youth to have no attention span whatsoever. The average youth today has the attention span of a goldfish, and I'm not even kidding about that.
Yes.
Like, look at the technologies, how social media has progressed. First we had like Facebook, and then in YouTube, and then we have now it's pared down to TikTok. Okay, you see how it's the time frame. Now it's all these 30-second clips.
Yeah, even the name TikTok means that's how short it's going to be. TikTok, that's it.
Totally.
That's actually an allusion to The Wizard of Oz, in case you didn't know.
Right, go on. Yeah.
That's Frank Baum wrote a series of books, and TikTok was one of the characters in the book, and he was a robot. It was an artificial intelligence, and that's what that was drawing off of. I don't remember all the particulars, but people could go ahead and look that up if you're interested.
It's all just a coincidence, Wayne.
Of course, it's The Wizard of Oz being a programming template for mind control. That's all a coincidence.
Yeah.
At any rate, yeah.
I was going to say, actually, when we're talking about AI, when you think now, I've seen videos of people actually listening to this AI and having conversations with it and taking everything it says as gospel, basically. But you're basically walking around with a 2001 HAL in your pocket, aren't you? People have literally got HAL from 2001, and they're just asking it everything, and everything it says. I don't know. I find it a bit
unnerving,
to say the least. When people are actually, I don't know, taking it like it's got, like this is the facts.
Well, again, Chris, when you're doing it, like I'm researching something today, and the AI thing came back up, and I thought, well, that doesn't even look true. So I did some digging, and what it had put there was just not true.
Yeah,
it wasn't true. It's cobbling together information.
It does. It cobbles together information that's not necessarily accurate. What it does is it kind of gives you the response you're looking for, oftentimes, just to reify your pre-existent notions about things. Mm-hmm. So whatever your preconceived belief is about something, it'll cobble together something that reinforces that idea for you. And this is a known and proven commodity with these AI tools right now. And we see a lot of that going on. So it doesn't necessarily give you factual information. It gives you whatever it thinks you want to see, and that's what it'll tell you. And it's strange that it's geared that way, but certainly it is, and that gives all kinds of false positives for people to go on with a lot of different.
And I suppose that comes back to what we were talking about earlier. You've got TikTok, obviously, we're talking about time moving faster, so you've got TikTok for a start, right, where it's an attention span of whatever, a gnat, yeah? The kids, they're aiming this at the kids, aren't they? Where the old fodder, if you like, where they're not interested in us. They're aiming this. Everything is about, when I say the kids, anything would be probably under 30-year-old or thereabouts. This is what all this is aimed at, because that's that generation that they're concentrating on now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All of this social engineering and programming going on is not intended for us. We're kind of old hat, and they know we're not buying what they're selling. So what they do instead with guys like us is they'll kind of cordon us off into our own little private echo chambers, and that's largely what we wind up with. But I'm hoping we're able to reach more minds with a lot of the information we share as far as this goes. And there are some within the younger generations that are finally picking up on this. And a lot of that can be attributed to TikTok, where you see the guy floating around down there pointing up at somebody else's work. That drives me nuts. But
it does me as well. With that horrible music playing and like this. Yeah.
Why not just show the guy's original video? Why do you have to have your face hovering around, pointing at it and smirking? That is the bizarrest concept. Dom's often said we have reached that point as well from RoboCop, haven't we? I'd buy that for $1, and everyone just bursts out laughing. He says that, not actually saying anything of any substance or humour, but everyone bursts out laughing just in instinct. That's where we've reached, isn't it? I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah, certainly, but that's at least it's reaching people with some of the information. Of course, how much do they really go down and actually vet the information out after they see that video clip of the guy with the green screen floating around pointing up at somebody else's work that they put together, just a minute and a half clip or whatever of it, and how much do they really vet out before they either accept it as true or just slough it off as entertainment? And that's where we're at with a lot of this stuff.
And they've also just snipped that 1.5 minute section, right? Some person's done hours of research and then a 2-hour video or whatever on that, and they've taken a section out of it and done a minute video on that, and it probably isn't even the most important part of that person's work. But at least they're doing it. At least they're doing it. There is an upside. At least that person is actually doing something. I suppose. And I know we were talking on another podcast last week, weren't we? Where my youngest does notice things. I mean, he said to me the other day, "Look what time it is, Dad. 9:11." I said, "All right, what does that mean?" And he went, "I see it all the time." I said, "Oh, right." I said, "How long have you been seeing that for?" He's 14. He said, "I've been seeing it for 3 years. I was telling my mates about it a few years ago. See it all the time, 9/11." Yeah. But so the
What does that mean?
Well, what does it mean? Yeah, I don't know. But it's more than just, again, coincidence when a young child's seeing it, because they're seeing it through honest eyes. They haven't been traumatized as much as we have.
Right, but all of these things have intrinsic value, and this falls on a concept that I call synchromystic metadata. Now, what is this? This seems to be disconnected bits of information that we see out there in the world at large that circulate around in the zeitgeist. And that's a word that's German. It means spirit of the time. That's how I like to refer to this overall information field that surrounds us. Now, here's the thing. People from all different walks of life, they all agree that this information field exists. They just disagree on what to call it. Like Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious. You have the occultists call it the Akashic record. You have science calls it various things, genetic memory, epigenetic memory, things like that. I prefer the term zeitgeist because that gives a spiritual implication to it, and there is a spiritual component to it. So these little disconcerting pieces of information we see out there in the world, when you connect the dots, you find a pattern begins to emerge. Now, I've done extensive work talking about this. It's a concept I refer to as synchromystic metadata because there's no better way to actually describe it. And people are familiar with the ideas inherent in technology. So most people have heard of metadata, and they understand to a certain degree what that is. It's not the main portion of the data. It's data that happens around the main portion of the data that supports the main data. So this is essentially what we see, and we've taken this apart. And actually, in December, Richard Willett and I launched a new podcast called Synchromystic, where we look at this concept and we apply it in the things we see out there in the news cycle and in the world around us. And from this, you could begin to see certain patterns emerge, and it points in a direction. And when you begin to understand and connect the dots with this data, you see on a much clearer level things that are going on in the reality around us. So this is an important concept. So even things as simple as numbers on a clock, if your child's looking at the clock and seeing 9/11, well, we are coming up on the 24th anniversary of 9/11 here very soon. And I think they have some other things in store for us coming up this fall. And I've heard a lot of people talking about certain prospects going on. And one of the things going on right now that seems to be getting a little more traction in kind of the mainstream media and across other portions of alternative media is this notion that this scientist Avi Loeb, if you've heard of him, he was out talking openly about this object that they're seeing, what's it called, like I3 Atlas or something, moving into our solar system now. And he's saying that there's a very, very, very tiny chance that it's a natural object. And they're speculating that it's some kind of an alien craft or something approaching the Earth. And it's supposed to be here sometime around November. So I'm curious to see if anything comes of this. Now, I'm not saying anything's going to happen. But when they're putting that kind of spin out there in the mainstream media, and when you have the quote-unquote alternative media now picking up on it and putting it out there too, which, by the way, alternative media is mostly controlled at this point as well. So any of these main players you see in the alternative media are very much likely to be somehow manipulated, or they have some kind of an operative in place. It's not truly grassroots like it once was. All of it's been taken over, and it's kind of been presented as like the new Fox News, if you want to put it that way. If you're familiar with the whole split years back between how you have the mainstream media, which was very leftist leaning, and then they offered you the alternative, which is Fox News, which leaned more politically to the right. Well, that kind of became very obvious through the course of time to anybody looking at it that these were controlled types of operatives as well. So alternative media arose, and it had quite a bit of popularity for a time. And now that has very much largely been infiltrated as well. I'm not saying everybody out there is a shill or anything. Don't go doing that. I don't like that shill game.
No, I don't either. Yeah.
But certainly we see there are certain big names that have arisen into prominence for some reason that have a lot of influence in the alternative media. A lot of them were former mainstream media, like Tucker Carlson and various ones like that. But it's not saying they put out bad information. They don't. They put out some good information, but a lot of times there's a political agenda behind it. Let's put it that way.
I call them fringe magnets.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, they're pulling the fringe away from going further down, looking for information like what you produce.
Oh, certainly. That what they want to do is they want to control the narrative, and they've always seemed to have in mind this whole alien narrative that they wanted to push at some.
They love it, don't they?
Well, I have heard of that new thing that you're talking about there, Wayne, and there is one thing for sure, we've definitely been prepped for it, haven't we? I mean, my entire lifetime has been prepped for the alien invasion.
Yeah, maybe the next up will actually be fun.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it will at least be interesting, won't it? I mean, even if I get blooming vaporized, at least it will be interesting.
Yeah, just the vest left there.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen. Probably not alien technology.
No, it'll be something, but
a Jeff Bezos drone.
Yeah. But I mean, if they do that, it will be. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Jeff Bezos and drones, have you seen the new iteration that they've done of War of the Worlds, the movie?
Do you know what? I watched like 5 minutes of it. I was watching it with my mate. I said, this is shite. I cannot watch this. It's so bad. And then I started seeing reviews popping up saying this is the worst film ever made. I thought, I'm glad I didn't persist any further. It was not even like a film, is it, Wayne? It's just, and it's got, who's in it?
Ice Cube, is it?
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube. And I quite like Ice Cube. He turned down the jib jab, didn't he? And it's just got him on a screen, basically. There's nothing actually. Did you watch all of it, Wayne?
No, I didn't watch it. I watched the reviews of it, and I
Yeah.
was actually looking at it, and I'm just shaking my head. But that's probably why they gave Ice Cube that part, right? Because
Yeah, he's paying his penance today.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
there you go. They gave him this and said, "You go do this," and it looks like they just used like a webcam or something, and the whole movie takes place on a computer screen in the movie.
Talking of films, right? We in that podcast we did when Mark hosted that, "Will It Fill in the Void?" It was a good podcast that with Crow, Jason, and yourself, and me and Chris. You guys, we were all talking about films and the quality of the films that they used to produce, not just from the videographer, but from the screenplay, the script, the acting, the whole thing. You could tell took some putting together, and now every film since Amazon and Netflix and all these other operations have come about. The scripts and the acting is absolutely terrible, and the filming is terrible. The whole thing is, and yet it seems that all these actors, the mainstream actors like Ryan Gosling or something like that, they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So something's working.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. Like a lot of what's happening now, and I think we're going to see more of this in the future, is essentially we have these film projects coming together where it's really kind of a subpar performance. It's kind of a subpar type of a movie plot. They have a ridiculous budget that they can't break even with. We see this even with successful films, like they say the new Fantastic Four film was a massive success. And people are saying it's actually a good movie and it's worth seeing. But you know what? It didn't even break even though it was doing well the first week. The second week, its numbers dropped off, and it needed something like $685 million or something just to break even. And it's only like 300 and some million in profits it pulled in. So it's not even close. So it is still considered a failure on that level, even though it was a successful film, because the budget's so high and because they pay these actors like these ridiculous amounts of money to have that star power in there, and they use all the money towards the CGI and stuff like that, which doesn't make sense to me. Like, how good of a computer rig do you need to pull off the CGI and stuff like they do? Like, how much more goes into that? I know it's an actual skill to be able to make like CGI and stuff like that to look good, but how much do you really need to pay into that? And they've gone very heavy towards this CGI stuff in most of these films. Well, where this is eventually leading is to where they no longer need actors. They will own their likenesses, and they could use AI just to generate the actor on screen. They don't need to film on sets anymore. They could do everything in the computer. That's where all of these AI tools and stuff are leading, and that's where Hollywood's going. That's why everything's CGI. It's to condition the human audience into accepting more and more of this very unnatural look to the film with all the CGI, to accept that and expect that. That way, they don't need to pay anybody to act, or they don't need to set up all these elaborate sets. They don't need to go on location and film things. They could just cobble it all together in a computer. It's a massive money saver, and they could still produce this film and put it out into the theaters and make more profits on it. That's where it's leading.
I attempted to watch the last Indiana Jones film. I say attempted because I don't know if I watched it all. I kind of half gave up. But there was a bit where they were out at sea and you could see it was CGI, and I thought, you can't even be asked to get a fucking boat and put it in the sea and stand in it. You've got to see. I mean, I don't know. I just thought that is it's lazy and it just looks shit. But what I think is, when you think of Jaws, for example, fantastic script, well directed, brilliant acting. The shark looked a bit shit, but they solved it by creating a tension and a plot. Now they can do absolutely everything they want, anything they want. But the scripts are shit. They haven't got that. They haven't got that essence, have they? There's something missing. Because I've been watching a few old films lately, and they're not selling you the agenda quite as strongly either. There might be a little bit of agenda in there somewhere, but it's nowhere near where it is now, where everything. You're waiting for it, aren't you? You're watching something, you think, what are they going to push? I saw a trailer, Wayne, for the new Alien series that's coming out. And it's all AI. It's all about the story. The main character is a girl. I saw the trailer yesterday, I think. It's a girl, and she's I think there's something wrong with her. So they've transported her consciousness into a robot, and that's the core of the story, not the alien. So they're literally doing the transhumanism.
Is that take over Bishop?
Well, it's the next stage, I suppose. It's called Alien Earth, so the aliens are on Earth, but she's the main character, I think.
And it has to be a girl as well, doesn't it?
It's a girl, yeah.
I'm not saying it shouldn't be a girl. I'm just saying it.
Yeah, but like we said before, Dom, the strong woman existed in the 80s. They've just rounded down his throat now. But I don't know if you've seen that, Owen. They're literally selling you the transhumanism thing in the new.
I did see that. I saw the commercials and stuff for it, and that's exactly the first thing I thought of, because they pointed out, oh, well, you're a cyborg. So therefore, the alien can't actually, the fake hugger thing can't affect her. And so I guess she's the hope for all of humanity, the cyborg. Yeah. And this definitely screams the transhumanist type of notion, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And certainly that's the programming motif they're going for. They want to normalize transhumanism. And how are they going about that? Using this Overton window concept that we talked about earlier. Well, they're pushing the whole transgender thing as a normal aspect right now, and we see a lot of that push has gone on through entertainment and through the Hollywood machine. So this is a stepping stone. This is the process towards transhumanism. First, normalize something like swapping genders or something like that as being perfectly acceptable and reasonable. And next, it'll be swapping species. And we see some of that actually reflected in this Overton window concept as well. I mean, there's actually a trend now called furries.
Yeah.
These are people that dress up as and this is accepted as normal. Yeah, a lot of the greater culture, like the younger culture.
There's two in my son's year. There's two in my son's year at school.
What are they? Cats?
Cats, yeah. I think they're cats. For fuck's sake. I mean, you shouldn't laugh, but
is that you talking about a while ago? Are they still there?
Yeah, they're still there. Yeah.
Do they wear cat ears?
They wear, well, I'm going to laugh here, but it's all trying to climb tree.
Is that a joke? You saw him trying to climb trees?
They're in the front lawn trying to climb the tree.
Oh, good hell. How did they get him down from a tree with a cup of milk?
Yeah, some cream.
How do we come down to a serious conversation?
Yeah, some catnip. Yeah,
yeah, but I mean, you can't. You can't take that seriously, can you?
No, he says one of them doesn't she obviously doesn't shower either or bath. So
she's lick herself.
She wants to. Yeah, she just. Yeah. Anyway, where were we going with?
Yeah. Okay. What were we talking about?
But when was that? That is a thing now. Right. 10 years ago, it wasn't. You know, it's like the AI stuff. It's crept up on us, and now that's accepted as normal.
Right. The Overton window. This is how they do it. Yeah. And right now they're accepting that. So transhumanism's next. I'm telling you.
I mean, it's not been done in many films, and to choose a film like the Alien franchise on Disney, which everyone loves the Alien franchise, don't they? To choose that, to actually put it out there, and like you said, that she will probably survive so she'll be an advantage because she's had her consciousness put into a superbot, basically.
Yeah, right. And is it foundation for all of humanity? You watch and see.
Mm. Yeah, is that really I mean, going back to what you were saying about these stars are going to be AI versions of themselves. Didn't Tom Hanks sell his rights to his essence or whatever? There was something where he sold his rights to his...
Well, sorry, Dom, just to say, I watched the new Alien film on Disney, Romulus, and did you see that with the Ian Holm digitized?
I didn't watch that movie, but it's interesting that you should name Romulus there, because this was one of the major bits of Synchromystic metadata that was floating around earlier this year, talking about the potential of the installation of a new Roman Empire. And I think that's what we're seeing happen over here in the U.S. right now, where Trump is the new Caesar, and he's doing all of these strange things and twisting the laws around to suit whatever it is that he wants to do. Like yesterday, he decided to federalize Washington, D.C. He took over all of the police force of Washington, D.C. and deployed the National Guard there to clean the town. Like that's draconian, and that's like a militarized police force, which is something that should never have happened here in America, like ever. And I've talked about this stuff like years and years and years ago about how the Rand Corporation put out a document calling for a stabilization force, a military police stabilization force for the United States. And we're seeing some of the things happening now like this. And Trump just called in to federalize the D.C. area, and he was talking about doing the same thing in New York and Chicago potentially, which is just deeply concerning because even though he may have some legal precedent to do that in D.C., he certainly has no place in New York or Chicago to do that. But he says,
is that like martial law then? Basically,
what's that?
Is that martial law? What? I didn't see anything about this in Washington.
Oh, you didn't see?
No.
That's more the way the media is controlled.
Yeah,
I get over here in the U.S. I mean, this is all over the place.
I've not seen anything.
I don't watch the news, so I wouldn't know.
No, but it's funny these things. It's like the floods in America, in Texas. They didn't bleed through here either.
Right.
They weren't really, even though it were a big thing over there.
Well, that's the same thing that goes on here. Like there's stuff that goes on in all kinds of other parts of the world. The average American has no friggin' clue about because they don't cover it. We don't see it. And this is a big story. Like this should be all over the world.
Yeah. Well, that's CCP, China, whatever. That's what they do. I mean, I did see an image of the trucks driving down. You call it a freeway, coming into Washington, and it looked like the old USSR Politburo stood at the side watching all the rockets going past.
Exactly, and that's kind of the image that comes to mind when you see this going on. There's no way he should be able to federalize a police force and reinforce Washington, D.C. that way. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no justification for it. The mayor of Washington, D.C. even came on television and said, the crime rate has been down like 300% or something here. We're handling it. And Trump's just stepping in and, like, taking over with the feds as far as the policing effort and stuff there goes. And not to say, I mean, D.C. is riddled with crime. Of course, a lot of big cities are. But what are you going to do? I mean, they're working at it. They're doing it. They have an acceptable police force. And the numbers show that they do have a reduced amount of crime and stuff there. So there's no real actual justification for him to do this. But he certainly stepped in and did so. And you know what? Nobody's really piping him up about it here.
The thing is, what he's doing is, I mean, whether you believe in the vote, I know you don't, but whether we believe in the voting system or not, he's got all these followers now that more or less worship him like one of those evangelistical preachers. And they daren't say anything now. They can't say anything now. That's the sad thing. They won't change their mind, will they?
I've just opened the Daily Mail, which is a newspaper over here, Wayne, and there's nothing in there about that. Nothing. I don't.
The barn wall.
What? Sorry, Wayne. Sorry to ask, but what exactly has he done there? What exactly has happened? Because
let me see. I'm gonna just do a quick Google search here. Trump federalizes DC. Federalizes DC. And let's see, here's top stories. 10 hours ago, CNN, Trump declared federal control of D.C. police and is deploying the National Guard. So, yeah, here, it's all over the place. It's the top return 10 hours ago from CNN, NBC News, 17 hours ago, 2 hours ago, NPR, Washington Post, Fox News, all over the place.
Yeah, if I Google it here, it's on CNN, on The Hill, Politico, and then it's MSN, but it's not on it's in USA Today, but it's not on any English news feeds, hardly.
Isn't that weird? And people wonder how do they control the narrative so much? How do they influence and control people? Well, if you don't know what's going on, like 1,000 miles away, how do you form any type of an opinion on that? How do you realize there's a problem?
And the interesting part is usually America and England are quite in sync with the news, but that's just not here. Yeah.
And that I find interesting that for some reason on this particular news story, there is that discrepancy between our locations there with what our returns are.
And with the Texas flooding.
It's certainly not a good look, is it?
No, it's not, because it shows you just how controlled your searches are.
I go into more results here. There's USA Today, CNBS, CBS, PBS, PolitiFact, Washington Post. There's one on the Independent, and it just says Trump wants to put Washington under federal control. That's all it says. But they're all American,
right? And he's done so now. That's the thing. He just did that yesterday.
And what does that mean? What does that entail? What will happen there?
Well, it means basically that the federal agencies are now the police force there officially in D.C., and he's deploying the National Guard. This is a militarized police force. This goes against a law that was put in place here in the U.S. from its inception called Posse Comitatus. So I guess that's all suspended now in D.C., and he might have some type of authority to do that because D.C. is actually a commonwealth that's separate from the United States of America at large. So he might be.
It's like the City of London, isn't it? Over here, it's the same type of thing. Yeah,
yeah. So it's an independent entity, but the thing is, maybe he could get away with it there, but most people don't realize. And he was talking about this since he did that, maybe doing the same thing in New York and Chicago. He can't legally do that. And if he does that, most people aren't going to realize he can't do it because now he did this in D.C. and everybody's just, okay, this is what we're doing now. So it'll normalize the bringing in of this militarized police force. And that's a terrible thing in and of itself.
Bloody hell, that's terrifying.
The land of the free.
Not only that, they're expanding ICE. The operations of ICE, they're recruiting people. They want to get 10,000 new recruits. They're offering $50,000 sign-on bonuses and paying off school debts and stuff for people to sign up. And they're going to turn it into the largest law enforcement agency in the country here, ICE.
Again, I've seen some footage of that, but not on the news. It's mainly on alternative media things. But I think we're limited of what we've seen of that, Wayne, to be honest with you. With the ICE thing.
Right, but this is all going on here, and all of this is headline news here. So that's what I find disconcerting is because, like you said, usually the news over there in the UK and the news here pretty much run side by side. Like it's a lot of the same things. And we're seeing actually now in real time, now that we're talking about this, the way that they cordon off this information for people. So,
what are you seeing in the ICE thing then, just to give our people listening?
Well, they're offering massive sign-on bonuses to get people to sign up to.
Like, I mean, who are they dragging out? I mean, because they've literally. I did see that thing about
ex-military. They're trying to sign on. What? But
there were also that alligator thing in there. What is it? That alligator?
Alligator Alcatraz. Yeah, that was a real thing too. It still is. I guess they stopped the funding for it now. They froze the funding, like some federal judge or something. Somehow froze the funding for it, but it's still open and it has detainees there, and it's really kind of a nightmarish scenario. Like if you're some type of an immigrant, whether you're illegal or whatever that's here, if they lock you up there, there's no way out. I mean, if you actually get out, that's probably a more horrific scenario than being put there because it's surrounded by swamps full of alligators and stuff like that. So if they have people escape, chances are they're going to get eaten. So it's a terrible situation. It really is kind of an outlandish thing.
And are they getting people who are actually legal and should be legal? Is that what's happening?
Well, they claim, now this is coming from like ICE and the federal agencies and stuff, the numbers that they claim and stuff and they talk about on the news is they're deporting like criminal elements and child traffickers and all of this stuff. But there are people that are getting swept up in this too that just kind of were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like locally here, just about an hour away from where I live, there was an immigrant who moved here 20 years ago, came legally, opened a business. He owned like a pizza business or something in the one town locally here. And ICE came and picked him up and are deporting him because his lawyer forgot to file paperwork or something and didn't file the paperwork properly. So now he's lived here for 20 plus years, owned a business and everything here, has his life here, and now he's being deported. So now he's detained by ICE still somewhere, last I heard, and hasn't been free. So you have all this kind of stuff going on too, which is like beyond the pale ridiculous. And now they're talking about making this ICE the largest federal law enforcement agency that there is in the country. And like I said, I covered things talking about a militarized national police force, a stability police force put out by Rand Corporation many, many years ago now, that they've talked about doing this kind of thing. It's only a matter of time before this turns on the citizens here.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't want to see, especially those who have supported Trump on the right, because let's be honest, they gave us a total crap show here the past 4 years with Biden and the Biden administration, where they've done things to undermine this country and dismantle a lot of the things people have worked for here. So a lot of people were very glad to see the right, the political right, take over. But now things are swinging a whole other direction because they knew they couldn't get away with this stuff with the leftist or progressive side of things doing.
You can see the plan unfolding, can't you? You can see exactly.
As long as you understand that both wings belong to the same bird, then you can understand.
We have a total shit show with Biden. Then we have the golden savior. Everyone jumps on that bandwagon. And then he's bringing in the real juice, isn't it? Bloody hell. That's terrifying, Wayne. I didn't realize it was that bad.
It is. It's getting really concerning here. And it's like...
But then in England...
about it either, because you don't want to get branded as like some kind of unpatriotic person or something like that, because by and large, a lot of his supporters, they just turn a blind eye to all of the bad things that he's doing. Now, he is doing some good things. There are some good things that have come out of this, but it's a mixed bag, and they won't dare criticize the bad things that are happening. But the thing that they don't seem to realize is that all of the things he's doing, eventually, like next presidency or something, you get a Democrat in there, they're going to flip all this stuff in the opposite direction, and that's going to directly affect them rather than it is now. So I don't know why people can't see through this left-right political paradigm. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah,
and you
yeah, just me over here. Just me over here.
Yeah, but you listen to some really, really smart content, deliverers in America, and then you hear them going to Albert Trump and the left and the right, and you think, oh God, really now, real. So, I suppose there's a bit of dissidence between people who've thought that Trump's going to come in and save us all, and then they probably won't want to admit when they're seeing the cracks, I suppose.
Exactly.
Like the jib jab.
Yeah, like the jib jab. Yeah.
Yeah, refuse to see it.
They knew that would be right. They knew that was going to be the case because part of human psychology is this tribalism. So you pick your side. Are you a Democrat or a Republican? Well, if you're a Republican, you're going to be rah, my team's winning. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
My team's winning. I could stop paying attention now because the adults took over. That's kind of what the mindset is. So now, because Trump's in charge, many of these people who for the past 4 years have been vehemently bashing everything that the Democrats and Joe Biden have been doing for that whole time and holding them on a short leash and trying to hold them accountable for stuff. Now they've all kind of shifted gears. Now they got their guy in, so now they're no longer paying attention.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, you have Stargate Initiative, $500 billion AI initiative rolling out, and people are clueless about it. Plus that they're passing this whole...
Oh, you're frozen there. Where?
What's the name of his...
Oh, sorry, man, you're frozen a bit there.
For the digital currency. Oh, sorry. Could you hear me now?
Yeah, you're coming back. You're still a bit frozen. But you can imagine even people who were in the Biden camp.
It's coming up unstable network connection. Let me see.
Because you're bad-mouthing Trump.
Did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You can imagine as well, Wayne, that people who were with Biden and they made that massive effort to jump to the Trump camp, they're going to be the last one who's going to say, oh, maybe I was wrong about everything. If they've done that leap to the other side, they're not going to change their mind again, are they? They're going to... We're just going to watch it.
It's all about human psychology, and they knew this going in. So that's part of what they counted on. If you're on the winning team, you're like, rah, my team's winning, and then they stop paying attention. So that's what's happened. The ones that got what they wanted with Trump elected, they're just going to sit back now and, okay, it's all good. I trust the plan. That's all part of the Q nonsense that went on too. They're still trusting the plan, and they're going to trust the plan all the brave. But I don't know how people still fall for these same political tricks. I guess the old tricks are the best tricks. So it's the same thing over and over again. So they bring in this new guy who's pushing this $500 billion AI initiative now and trying to set up the control grid, the beast system, and people just don't even pay attention to that. Plus, he's trying to roll out his legislation on digital currency and that kind of thing too, which goes hand in hand with all of that. So certainly we have our concerns about that, but most people aren't paying attention to that. They're busy looking at some of the surface level stuff that's going on, and they're even paying attention at all.
And for the first time as well, everything that we're talking about here is happening in every country at the same time. Every single thing.
Coincidences, you know.
Yeah. 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 Should we move, change tack and go into your Synchromystic show that you've been doing with David Willett?
With Richard Willett? Yeah.
Richard Willett, sorry. Yeah.
Because, you see, I'm having some bandwidth connection problems here, probably because I was discussing Trump.
You've been targeted.
Now it seems to be resolving. If we switch gears a little bit, maybe the algorithms will be nice to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. So Richard and I started doing this project called Synchromystic, where we talk about the synchromystic metadata, and we take a look at things going on in the world and tying it together into some of the things we were researching and tie it back to its occultic roots and that kind of thing. So we come at it from two different vantage points, and we arrive at the same conclusions most of the time with things, and we see and demonstrate for people how a lot of the occult concepts are being leveraged by the power structure. So we're about 16 episodes in now with this. It's a every other week broadcast that we do. So that's available out there on Spotify and all over the place.
What's it called? Sorry, because I've never listened to this, if I'm honest.
Synchromystic. It's on Spotify. SYNCROMI or MYSTIC. Synchromystic, no H.
I've heard you mention the word, but I've never actually listened to this. The
Synchromystic podcast.
I've seen the Synchromystic one, Synchronistic one as well.
No, Synchromystic with an M.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I'll find it. Yeah. I'll send us a link so we can put it in the thingies.
Yeah, I could send you the link over too if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You can listen to it right on my website, www.alchemicaltechrevolution.com.
Right.
It propagates right there with under the new episodes tab that comes up. So
I listen to your stuff on the Apple podcast platform.
That seems to be where most of my traffic comes from. Actually, I'm looking for more listeners on Spotify. That would help me out if more people would stream the show through Spotify.
Oh, really? Okay.
So if anybody's listening, because that's who actually hosts the podcast. But strangely enough, I get more traffic through Apple Podcasts. So it's weird.
It's difficult. There are that many ways you can release things now. I try and just stick with our website, and sometimes I put it on YouTube. And
but I was going to Apple.
We go into Podomatic, or go through Podomatic, that ships them out to all these other podcasts. I think people don't realise behind the scenes how many things you've got to do to release a show. I'm not playing the poor tail light, by the way. I enjoy it, but it is quite an in-depth thing to release a show in it. But talking about your show here, about cults, I'm just looking at Richard's. Is it like another extension of what he's doing with this channel and your channel? It's like a merger, isn't it, between both your work?
It is. It's a merger between the work that we both do.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing, and we've had a great response to it. And it's been growing exponentially by leaps and bounds to the point where we were actually listed as the number one on Apple Podcasts under the technology category for the 1 week there.
Right.
I found it. Sorry, I was just saying I just found it on Apple Podcasts. That's great.
Yeah, it's there too.
Yeah, and I'm going to follow you there, and then I can listen to him in my shed.
He doesn't know what your shed is, Chris.
we just finished doing episode number 16 of this, and we've been covering a lot of the things like we had talked about. How you had mentioned Romulus. Remember, you mentioned Romulus about the Alien movie?
Yeah.
Well, this was a whole thing that went on. This term showed up all over the place in that same time period where they released that movie.
Yeah.
And this was just a few months back, and it kept showing up everywhere. This notion of Romulus and the story
Romulus and Remus.
Founding of Rome. Right. Now, do you remember the story about the Texas Biotechnology Company, how they cloned and engineered dire wolves? Do you remember that story?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah.
Yeah, what were the wolves' names?
Is it Romulus and Remus?
Exactly.
Was it?
And you know what the story of the dire wolf is? The dire wolf, this has to do with the founding of Rome, the mythology of the founding of Rome. Well, around that same time, this Alien Romulus film released. And then, not only that, I'll have to see. I don't know if I have this video clip here. I might have it. I might have deleted it. But there was a clip on a news program here in the U.S. called Inside Edition, where at that same time period, about a week later, and it was a day after Richard and I released an episode talking about Romulus and how this is one of those bits of synchromystic metadata out there to usher in this idea of a new Roman Empire. The day after, this story broke, where it was Elon Musk, I guess, he had another child, his 14th child, and this was covered on this show because he wasn't sure if he was the father. So he took a paternity test and it showed 99% that he's the father of this baby that he had with, I forget the woman's name, but I think her last name's Sinclair. And that's an interesting...
Yeah, that's an interesting name to start with.
Exactly. So she had the baby. Guess what the baby's name is?
Not Romulus, is it?
It's Romulus.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding either. Like, and how does this stuff all seem to come together at the same time like this? This is an example of synchromystic metadata. This is what I'm talking about, where you see these disconnected bits of information. You have the story about the dire wolves. Okay, they genetically engineered dire wolves. Just so happens to be the myth about the foundation of Rome. And you have their names are Romulus and Remus. And then all of a sudden, after Richard and I actually put this out there into the world, the very next day, this news story breaks. And they actually show the baby's name on screen in this Inside Edition video, too, and talk about it. The baby's name's Romulus. Elon Musk named his 14th child Romulus.
Romulus for Sinclair.
Sorry, Wayne, what is the mythology around the Romulus and Remus? Is it the two wolves and the mother?
Well, see, Romulus and Remus were raised by wolves, if you go back to the myth.
Yeah.
They were abandoned as children, and they were raised by a she-wolf. And this goes back to the foundations of Rome, the founding of Rome. And, of course, it was Romulus who was the one who founded Rome, and that's who Rome is named after. So this harkens back to that mythological archetype of the founding of the Roman Empire. Well, Richard and I did a whole series of episodes, and I've done some on my own podcast and stuff as well, talking about the importance of this idea and how things had actually pre-echoed this prior to that, going back to the beginning of the year here on New Year's Day, with the installation of a new Caesar and the rise of a new Roman Empire here. And that's what it's centered on. It seems to be the archetype in play here for America. And of course, Trump talked about a new golden age and everything else, hearkening back to all these ideas. So that's what it all keys up to. So I would recommend, if people are interested in learning more, you could go back and listen to those episodes.
Will do, yeah. I'm pretty sure, Wayne, as well. I'm pretty sure in the film, it actually shows an image of Romulus and Remus suckling on a wolf's teats, if you like. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it shows that. Yeah.
So they were hearkening back to this archetype for a reason. So this is what I'm talking about. You see this stuff out there, and I would argue that there's a beyond human intelligence that sometimes guides and directs and steers this synchromystic metadata in these ways. Because I think it goes way beyond just human planning for this stuff. And all of this, of course, harkens back to some other things I've talked about in the past as well, where there is this spiritual side of it that comes into play. And that's why I refer to the information field as the zeitgeist, because there's a spiritual component to it. So you see these little disparate bits of information out there. And when you begin to connect the dots and look at it, you find that there's no way that this could be coincidental. Like something that's a hit that is as synchronized as this is, there's no way statistically it could be just a coincidence with the time frame. It's out there for a reason, and it's to affect human consciousness, the collective unconscious, in a particular way. And it's all about hearkening back to the foundation of Rome, that archetype. So certainly it's intended to affect people on an unconscious level in that way. And I think it has, because now you see all the things that are going on here in America that people are just kind of throwing their hands in the air and saying, oh, well, and letting it happen without any major resistance to it. Now we have militarized police in D.C.
Which I suppose, if you look back in time, there's a high possibility that whatever date we're on today and time and all this and moon cycles or sun and everything else like that, something happened in Rome where they brought the military into the centre of Rome, possibly.
Oh, yeah, I don't doubt it. I mean, you could go back and look at all of the different concepts associated with this to see, well, what a lot of this has to do with is it's about the rise and fall of the new Babylon when you want to go back and look at it from the biblical context. So that's what it's hearkening back to, because if you go back and you really research this stuff, you find the Roman Empire never really fell. It just transformed itself into the Vatican and was still in place even today. So with the death of the last pope, this was an announcement of the fall of the first Roman Empire. And now we have the arisal of this new Roman Empire, signified by the installation of a new pope, who, by the way, is an American for the first time in history. It's not a coincidence, guys. No, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. This is the synchromystic metadata. And Richard and I took this apart ad nauseum in 2 or 3 episodes of Synchromystic. And I took a stab at it on my own as well, with a lot of the foundations of this. So this is what this is kind of implementing in that way. This is the effect on human consciousness that's intended by these controllers of this world. So that they're setting up this archetype wherein we have this new golden age, this new Roman Empire, the second Roman Empire, and all of this has to do with biblical prophecy as well. Because it tells you in the book of Revelation, if you read the part about the Scarlet Woman and the beast and all of these things, you find that it says Babylon the Great has fallen, has fallen. And it says that phrase twice, which designates that this happens twice in the biblical timeline. If you look at theology and theological concerns, any theologian of Christian theology will tell you, when the Bible says something like that twice, there's a reason for that, because it happens 2 separate times. So it's talking about the fall of the first Roman Empire and the fall of the second Roman Empire, both of which have been identified as Mystery Babylon by many of the people who've looked at this. And of course, if you look at the book of Revelation, it talks about the 7 hills of Rome and how the Roman Empire signifies Babylon in this context in the Bible. So this is what we're looking at. So we're looking at the fall of the first Roman Empire, the arisal of the second Roman Empire, and it's ultimately destined to fall again. And that's what they're kind of leveraging in this fashion, in this way. So that's why when we see draconian things happening here in America, and we look back at our prior history in the world, we could recognize there's some ugly things coming. And this is exactly why, because they need the Babylon to fall twice, so that they could implement their new world order that they want. And Trump is greasing the skids for all of this and getting very little resistance, because they were very smart in their planning of operations here. When they put Biden in office and gave the Democrats control over things, they really began to collapse a lot of the foundations of this country in that little short window of opportunity that they had. And they needed to do that before they could really roll in the draconian measures. So they needed to have this break between Trump's first term and his second term. And I think all of this was actually planned out in Bilderberg 2016. If you go back and look at the attendees of Bilderberg 2016, which happened in Chantilly, Virginia, you find J.D. Vance was present there. And that's our vice president now, and that's also not a coincidence. So I think all of this was introduced at that time. They told Trump, you're going to lose this next term. We got to put a Democrat in office and make things horrible. And you could swoop in and become the savior. And I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So all of this, in my view, was implemented and planned at Bilderberg 2016. And then we see the things that have happened since that time. And of course, they set Trump back up for a re-election campaign here in this last presidential cycle. And he had an attempted assassination against him.
I was just going to say
One
that.
of the most fake WWE things I've ever seen. Ate it up, hook, line, and sinker.
Wasn't it strange, though, when they didn't dine out during the campaign? They didn't even dine out or use that as a...
Because people were seeing through it. So
yeah.
Move on. Yeah, move on. Everyone forget about that.
See, what this was an appeasement to the Christian right here. Because they viewed this as the God divinely saved Trump. So therefore, this is God's will that he be the president. You see how they manipulate human psychology? They knew that would be the reaction. And they knew to look for that. But also, we were rightly told in the book of Revelation and in the Bible that the Antichrist would receive a head wound and recover from it miraculously. So you have people on the other side thinking maybe Trump's the Antichrist and does kind of fit the profile in a lot of regards. I don't know.
Doesn't he have to have a withered hand as well, though? We just have to wait for him to wither his hand somehow. Also, when he was the 45th, i.e. the 9th, and the 47th, i.e. 11, the 9/11 president, I'm sure you know.
He's the 9/11 president. Synchromystic tell right there. 9/11, that number sequence represents a lot of different things. It represents evil magic primarily. If you go back and you look at the works of Aleister Crowley, who talked about 11 being the evilest of numbers, and you look at that whole context. But to take it back to the scientific paradigm, this is the broken cybernetic feedback loop. 9/11. You're skipping the 10. The 10 is the number of completion and completes the cycle and resets the cycle. Well, what happens is they're resetting the cycle without coming to completion. So it's a broken feedback loop system. That's how I used to try to describe it to people. So that's what 9/11 represents. So it's taking our mind in a giant circle, in a giant loop, to go back to the future. And you thought it was just a clever name for a movie. That's why they're talking about a golden age. This is hearkening back to the age of Saturn and the occult. That's what the golden age is about. So it's going back to the future. And people miss that kind of stuff all the time. This is the nature of this synchromystic metadata. It's the words have meaning game. It's this game you see out there where a lot of these things that show up in pop culture are referring to an occult concept that people have no idea about. That's why 9/11 is also so heavily encoded in the Back to the Future movies as well. So when you look at all of that, you could connect the dots.
Can I ask you something, Wayne? And just describe something that I experienced, and will you tell me if this was synchromystic? So we did I saw a couple of kids' films with my daughter, and then there are a few news things. There are a few things I saw in the zeitgeist, as you say, that made me convinced there was going to be some kind of flooding episode. So I was so convinced I drew a picture of it, and I dated it. So I drew a picture of it with buildings slightly underwater, and I think it was June the 22nd. And like I said, we didn't get any information about the Texas floodings, which I believe started on the July the 4th, I think. Is that right? Or around there?
Somewhere around. I don't remember.
But it didn't dawn on me till I saw this picture that I'd drawn again, and then I looked at, and then I heard about the Texas thing. And then I looked at some images, and it had flooded really badly. I didn't realize how bad it was. I saw some images of, like the water rising and coming down streets and stuff. And we'd seen nothing about it in our news at all. But just through a few things I saw in kids' films and a few things I saw in the news, I was convinced there was going to be some flooding. And I drew a picture of it on June the 22nd. And then you had the Texas flooding.
Yeah, that was a major event as well, because essentially what happened is they got like an unprecedentedly ridiculous amount of rainfall in like a 24-hour span. And there were a lot of summer camps and stuff along the banks of this river. And the river rose like 23 feet or something absurd like that and
Yeah.
flooded out the whole area. And some people were killed because they weren't expecting that. And it turns out that there was some guy with drones who owned a company that was seeding the clouds, and they're saying that's not related or anything, right?
Yeah, right.
And they had all of this different stuff going on, but it's amazing how all of that stuff seems to line up. And
Yeah.
I guess that same area flooded back in the 1980s in a similar fashion as well, if you go back and you look. So it's interesting how these things seem to reverberate through the cycles of time. It's the same thing happened then. There was this surprise flood, and these campers who were in these buildings got killed. Same thing happened in the 80s. So It's amazing how it all harkens back to the same details again and again and again,
Yeah.
which is why I would argue that perhaps there's some beyond human intelligence that goes into guiding and directing some of this stuff.
Did you see there was that thing? There was an air crash in India, and one guy survived. I don't know if you saw it, and he was sat in, I think, seat 11A or something. And in the 90s, there was a Thai airplane that went down, and a guy survived in seat 11A. Just
I
the one,
didn't see.
yeah. And he actually got in touch with him and said, "Oh, I did that." You're like, what? Yeah, what the
But
hell?
it's like there's only so much code, isn't there? It's a bit like the 3 or 4 notes that they use for pop music. Every now and again, they're going to turn out a song that sounds like someone else's song,
Yeah.
and because there's only so much code that's out there, and what we're probably witnessing is that code. It seems like that to me.
Yeah.
Repeating of cycles as well. That kind of thing happens. We are influenced by all these different energetic principles around about us that we don't realize. That many of those at the highest, most levels of the power structure realize are there, and they try to leverage. And this is where you get notions like astrology and stuff from. There's something real to that, and they've tried to discredit that as much as they can with all of this. But think about it this way. They will most certainly recognize that gamma radiation or neutrinos from space affect things on Earth. Well, there's other energetic principles that come from the sky that affect us here too, but they don't want to acknowledge those. They would rather you think of those as being silly or nonsensical. And that's what they've done. And it seems there are those at the highest, most echelons of many of these occult fraternities that have places of prominence in this world, and they understand those forces better than we do, and they leverage them against us all the time. That's why they plan certain things at certain times of the year. And I'm thinking specifically of 9/11. There's a reason why it was planned then. There's a lot of synchromystic interest in that date and that time of year because of certain things that align in the astrological realms with stuff. There's energies that are present that they could utilize and steer and direct and manipulate in ways most people aren't aware of, because we've been taught in our modern way of thinking in the realms of science, or more rightly called scientism, to not accept those types of things because it's not something that is readily measurable in any quantitative type of a way. So we're thought to think in terms of, can you measure or weigh it? And that makes it factual. That's what science is all about. It's about quantifying everything. And why is this? Because if you quantify a thing, that gives you some measure of control over it. Even if it's an imprecise measurement and it's a qualitative thing you're trying to measure, if you could apply mathematics to it, that gives you some type of control over that. That's why they're all about this cult of quantum. That's why everything's quantum. It's about counting, measuring, and weighing everything, even if it's something that can't traditionally be weighed or measured in that way. They will still do it because it gives them a measure of control over it. This is the cybernetics approach to control systems. That's what it's all about, and that's what these people do. So they understand those forces better than we do, and they apply their cybernetic methodologies to them, but they want to keep us wholly ignorant of them, so they encourage us to think of all of that as woo-woo nonsense. And that's where most people miss the boat on a lot of different things. There are influences and forces that do affect us in many different ways that we scarcely know anything about. They'll even readily admit in the realms of science that the moon affects the tides. Well, if the moon, an astrological body, can affect the tides, and the sun affects us in a very many number of ways here, why does it sound so nonsensical to think that maybe the position of a certain planet in the sky or something can have some type of an influence here?
Also, they know there's more crime when it's a full moon.
Exactly. This is a well-known thing. Talk to anybody that's ever worked in the emergency room. They know, oh, it's a full moon. We're going to be busy.
More suicides, more, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I could tell when it was a full moon because I work in kitchens and I used to work with like 10 guys at once, and I'd come on to them and I'd go, "Is it a full moon?" Because everyone were acting weird today. Yeah. And generally, you're right. You're correct.
But just going back to 9/11, the date, because we're being programmed to follow the calendar, and you've got Christmas Day and Easter and all these locked-in days. No one thinks of any other days other than those as a special day because we've not been taught that 9/11 in such a year, at such a time with the sun somewhere or the moon somewhere is an important time because of all these energies that are around it. If we were taught that, we'd be able to utilise that as well.
We're always on the build-up to those crap days as well. Yes. I know we have Easter, then it's Halloween. There's like 4 or 5. There's always something coming up, isn't there? That you've got to focus on, but people do focus on. There's always something approaching.
Right, and there's all sorts of other like holidays and dates and stuff like that have a lot of influential forces behind them too that most people don't recognize. Things like the notion of Imbolc. Now, we would call that Groundhog Day here in America. Usually happens February 1st. It's Imbolc. It's halfway between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. It's an important day in a lot of the occult rituals and stuff that goes on. So we have that goes on, and most people don't recognize that. It has kind of made a resurgence here in some of the culture because there's a lot of people that claim to be Wiccans or pagans or things like that have no idea what they're talking about, who try to celebrate that stuff. But all of this stuff, there's energetic principles that take effect there, that affect all of us. And it's about this rise and fall of energy, if you want to get down to the brass tacks of what it all means. It's about the influx and outflux of energy into the system, into the world here. Because come springtime, what happens is the world sees an increase in the energy from the sun that happens during spring. And we see new life begins to bud and emerge everywhere. And it's the opposite come the fall, this is why it's important that with the date of 9/11, because then the energy level drops around the world and it goes to its lowest point in December at the winter solstice. So this has a real world effect on the energy levels of people, of animals, of plants, of everything within the system. And people will not recognize that kind of an idea. Think about it. Think about the seasons, how they affect us without us really realizing it. And once again, you could say, well, this is something where you have these influences from the sky that are affecting us on a fundamental level. And to think of things, like I said, that maybe are associated with astrology as being nonsense, well, why would you think that way when it's demonstrable that this stuff does have a real effect on us? Think about it. And this is where people begin to disconnect from that. So they don't want to consider that maybe there's something to it, when most certainly there is. And those people who know about it learned how to leverage those energies to do the things they want to do, to push and promote the agendas they want, and to manipulate the people in a direction that they want. So when you're at this low point in the human energy level, that's when they will often leverage some type of a catastrophic event in that way to affect people on a massive level.
Do you think that this realm, whatever we're living through, is for some kind of energy harvesting, Wayne?
Well, I think there is a little something that goes on along those lines. Of course, that falls back on the Gnostic belief system with all of that. I don't think that's a 100% correct assessment of how things operate, but there are these spiritual forces that do tend to vampirize human energies. I think that's demonstrably true. I don't think it's the exact system that's named by the Gnostics, how it exactly works. but there are bits of information in what they teach that can be of value in understanding some things. And certainly, I think there are spiritual forces, entities, intelligences, however you want to describe these things, that feed off of human emotion, especially negative emotion. And that's why they try to leverage these principles in that way.
But it explains why we live in some kind of trauma tank. I mean, even if you're happy-go-lucky, I mean, I'm a pretty positive guy. Even if you're a positive guy, you can't help but notice the trauma that's going on. You know, everything is based around causing pain or trauma. Even nice things, even if you're, I don't know, ordering something, it's a pain in the ass to get, and you know the delivery guy throws it over a wall and smashes it. You know, it's everything's about it. It's sort of like a traumatic experience, isn't it? But
yeah, I mean, we see a lot of that. It's kind of like a cycle of necessity and sorrow in certain ways that we live in. We live in the great school that is life, and certainly, I think we're here to learn lessons. I think we're here to.
We're certainly learning those.
What?
We're certainly learning those lessons.
Right. Sometimes we learn the hard way.
Yeah.
Now, there's people that have this Gnostic attitude where they think we're living in this prison planet, and we've heard that term bandied about before.
Yeah.
And that we're only here to suffer, and that these archonic forces feed off of that, and they keep us trapped here, and we keep reincarnating here. This is what a lot of the Gnostic belief system teaches, and it's all negative. And it doesn't necessarily have to be all negative. Yes, we do learn here. We are given hard lessons, but that is so that we grow spiritually. That's my take on it. We are here to learn lessons because we're human, we're imperfect, we don't know everything, and we need to learn and progress and grow and develop. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're here. It's a tough school, but it is a school nonetheless. And I don't think it's all negative all the time, like many of these Gnostics.
And also, who says we have to come back? Well, it might just be you're here to learn something, then your energy goes somewhere else.
Oh, I could go on a whole hours long.
I know you could,
Here talking about the misnomer that is reincarnation and how it's been represented in a lot of the New Age circles and stuff like that. It's not what people think it is. Let's put it that way. But I don't want to go on.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's next time we do something, which we'll try not to leave it a year this time. We'll talk about reincarnation. That'd be a good one, actually. What do you say, Chris?
Yeah, brilliant. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah. I'd like to do that one.
It's a largely misunderstood thing in my view.
I also think a lot of people dig their heels in on it, and really it's an open book, isn't it? Because you know, you can come up with theories and ideas and things like that, but until you've gone back there, you can look at proof and things, but until we've actually gone back there, we don't know, do we?
Exactly. We don't really know. And here's the thing. This is why it's such a tricky subject, because basically almost the entirety of most of these occult systems that exist, it is a foundational principle of their systems. So therefore, if you could discredit or disprove that notion of things, the whole system crumbles. The whole belief system crumbles. And they don't like that. So it's certainly a foundational thing, and that's why it's such a touchy subject. And you have differences in Eastern cultures as to what they teach and Western cultures, and you have a confluence of it that happens somewhere where the ideas overlap in many ways, and there is something inherent there in the notion, but it's largely misunderstood. I don't think that you literally just keep recycling and coming back here in a new human form over and over again, or reincarnate as an animal or some such thing. Of course, maybe your kid's classmates. Maybe.
And on that, at least we're laughing at the end, right? Where can people catch your stuff again, Wayne, and buy your books from? Because I don't know how many books you've written. Have you written multiple books? I was trying to count how many while we were just doing that.
I think there's 30 of them out now, if you count all the.
Is that all?
I'm serious. I have like podcast transcripts that I put out in book form too, because I do talk about the importance of having an analog record of things. So I don't want this stuff to disappear down the memory hole. So some of the more important episodes I've done, I've released a transcript in book form for them. So I think there's about 30 books out there now altogether. But people could find all of my work on my website, www.alchemicaltechrevolution.com. So that's one good centralized place to find me.
Yeah, I'll put all the links in the show notes. But it's been great catching up, and we can't leave it another year.
No.
Yeah, definitely. We got to do this more frequently.
Yeah, great. Love to win.
Yeah, I agree.
Fantastic.
I remember listening to you first. I think it was Chris actually that introduced me to your work when you were doing a podcast with Crow and Jason. Going back, I bet it's 7 or 8 years ago now, 2017 or something like that. You were talking about childhood jib jabs at that point, and obviously that didn't last on YouTube. Funnily enough, I'll try and get this on YouTube though, because I don't think we're talking about anything that'll offend anybody there. On here,
YouTube's been a lot better in recent months. I've noticed, like they don't seem to give me any kind of strikes or anything, or demonetize my videos. I talk about some sketchy stuff sometimes, so I think it's okay now.
Yeah,
I think we could use YouTube for the time being.
Yeah, for this one, I think it'd be fine. But yeah, I'll put this on YouTube, and I'll send you over a copy of it as well, so you've got you can put it out yourself as well.
All right, much appreciated.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to episode 241. If you're joining us for part 2, we'll see you there. If not, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.